Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Vishnupad Rashatarashatashmar Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Vishnupad Rashatarashatashmar Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Vishnupad Rashatarashatashmar Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Vishnupad Rashatarashatashmar Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Mahabhagavat Srila Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitil Pavishram Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadas Raghunath Shara Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gaur Mandal Braj Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sarva Abhishta Pradati Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund Ki Jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi Ki Jai. Shri Gadadhar Pandit Ki Jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. That's interesting. Usually there's, oh, okay, there are people here. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namo Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Darbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakatara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Binedus Tang Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskrityam Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Vedantasta Yabhadrani Vedunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Kshiptastakama Ditaranka Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams. Alright, so yesterday we didn't read because I was traveling on my way to Puri, but then my train was cancelled. Anyhow, let me just bring us to where we are right now. So Lord Vishnu was born as the son of Nabhi. Nabhi named him Ṛṣabhadeva, the best of all humans. Nabhi developed deep parental affection for Ṛṣabhadeva and eventually enthroned him as the king of Bharatvarsha. Thereafter, Nabhi and his wife Meru Devi departed to Badarikashram and worshipped the sages Nar Narayan there. In due course of time, they were elevated to Vaikuntha. Lord Ṛṣabhadeva married Jayanti and begot 100 sons similar to himself. Although they were all Kshatriyas by birth, 81 of them became perfectly qualified brāhmaṇas. 9 of them became very advanced devotees called the Navayogendras, and 10 of them became great Kshatriyas. The eldest of them was Bharat. Once, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva toured the world and reached Brahmavarta. There, in an assembly of Brahmins and sages, he instructed his sons as follows. I'll just read what we read. We read up to 14 yesterday, so I'll just read it directly from here. So, importance of human life. In order to establish Bhakti Yoga, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva first says that material enjoyment should not be practiced as the goal of life for a person with a human body. Human life is not for sense gratification, but for divine austerity. Of all the embodied beings, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard simply for sense gratification, which is available even for dogs or hogs that eat stool. One should engage in austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service, by which one's heart is purified and which leads to infinite happiness in relation to the Lord. Link. From the human body, one can gain deliverance or fall down. Causes of liberation and bondage. This is a very famous verse. Mahatsevam dharam ahur vimuktes. Service to Mahatmas opens doors to liberation. Association of womanizers opens the doors to a hellish condition of life. Mahatmas are equipoised, peaceful, devoid of anger, friendly to all, and do not find faults. Note 8. Mahatma, and then this is from Srila Prabhupada's purport, so we read this. Mahatmas are of two types: impersonalists, worshippers of Brahman, and devotees, worshippers of Bhagavan. An impersonalist sees no difference, samachitta, and he is peaceful. A devotee has a sincere heart, and his intelligence is fixed on the Lord, prashanta. Both are devoid of anger, and are friendly to all, and do not see faults in others. And then note B. Brahma Sokyam, mentioned in the first verse, is also in this chapter, is also of two types: personal and impersonal. The prefix V indicates two types of liberation, namely merging and becoming an associate of the Lord, by either serving an impersonalist or a devotee respectively. Okay. Link. Among the two types of Mahatmas, devotees are superior. Their qualities are: they are eager to develop love for the Lord, their goal of life. They are disinterested in mingling with people who are busy maintaining their bodies,
eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. They are unattached to their house, wives, children, friends, or wealth. They are interested only in collecting enough money to keep the body and soul together, or to remain in household life to spend their money on glorifying the Lord. Note, this verse also describes ideal household life. Devotees are detached, but they are not indifferent to the execution of their duties. Verses 4 to 6, ending the transmigration cycle. Ṛṣabhadeva stated that those persons who are attached to women will fall down. He illustrates this and laments for those persons. Sense gratification leads to perpetual transmigration. When a person considers sense gratification the aim of life, he certainly becomes mad and engages in all kinds of sinful activities. I do not consider such actions befitting, for they lead to another temporary body which gives suffering to the jiva, although he actually has no connection with it. Link, if sin leads to bondage, then shouldn't one do pious activities? And then the answer to this is, both sin and piety lead to bondage. Therefore, inquire into the self. One is defeated and subjected to miseries arising from ignorance, as long as one does not inquire about the spiritual values of life. As long as fruitive activities continue, pious and sinful, the mind remains absorbed in action, and the bondage to repeated bodies results. Note, therefore, even pious actions lead to samsara and suffering, but all karmas, be they pious or sinful, can be destroyed by jnana. Thus the mind is subjected by karma due to a covering of ignorance. Due to a covering of ignorance, the jiva performs actions that fix the mind upon further action. Until one has love for me, Vasudeva, or until bhakti appears, he will not be liberated from the body. To be a devotee, one must be free of material desires. Sense gratification is useless. A learned man is mad and foolish if he doesn't see the futility of the endeavor for sense gratification. Forgetting his own interest, he suffers in a home centered around sex. Why is maithuna especially condemned? One might ask. Male-female attraction creates a double knot. The sexual attraction between male and female, the basic principle of material existence, is called a double knot of hearts. It creates an attraction to body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth. And in illusion, one thinks, I am this is mine. When does liberation take place? The strong knot on the heart due to karma is slackened. Then one gives up the basic principle of illusion, I and mine. And then one gains liberation and entrance into the transcendental world. So then one might ask, how is that not slackened? And now he explains the process of attaining liberation. 25 processes to destroy ahankar and attain liberation. 1. Following the Guru with devotion. 2. Detaching from matter. 3. Tolerating dualities. 4. Realizing the miserable condition of the jivas. 5. Inquiring about the truth. 6. Performing austerities. I'm not going to read the numbers, I'm just going to. Giving up the endeavor for sense enjoyment. Engaging in my activities. Hearing my topics always. Associating with my devotees. Chanting and glorifying my transcendental qualities. Being without enmity. Seeing everyone equally. Subduing anger, lamentation, etc. Abandoning the bodily identification. Reading the revealed scriptures, living in a secluded place, practicing to control the life air, mind, and senses, developing faith in the Vedic literatures, observing celibacy always, performing one's prescribed duties, avoiding unnecessary talks, seeing my presence everywhere, acquiring knowledge which produces realization, and practicing yoga. By following these instructions, one will be freed from the ignorance of desire for fruitive activity and the knot of bondage in the heart. Then one should give up the process also. Note, the process of liberation is Brahma Jigyasa, or neti neti, the process by which one analyzes existence to search out the absolute truth. This analysis continues only until one is situated in parabhakti, or transcendental devotional service to the Lord. One can give up the practice of yoga, but bhakti should never be given up. Now, responsibilities of a leader. Okay, this is where we are now. Oh, sorry, my internet's is slow today, huh? Sorry about that, guys. Is my voice working? Because, here, let me put this link here. If my screen's getting stuck, you can also just follow along on your computer. I'll send you the link in the chat here. Yesterday I traveled for how long? I left at 6:30 in the morning, and I arrived and I got back last night at 10 o'clock at night. And I traveled on like 10 buses. It was a pretty crazy journey. What is that? It's 14 hours, I think. 15 hours. 15 hours traveling on 10 buses. Putrangscha shishyangscha nripo gururva maloka kamo maranugraharta itang vimanyur anushishyarattajyan no yojayet karmasu karma mudan kam yojaya manujortam labeta nipatayam nashta drisham higarte. If one is serious about going back home back to Godhead, he must certainly consider the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the summum bonum and chief aim of life. If he is a father instructing his sons, a spiritual master instructing his disciples, or a king instructing his citizens, he must instruct them as I have advised. Without being angry, he should continue giving instructions, even if his disciple, son, or citizen is sometimes unable to follow his order. Ignorant people who engage in pious and impious activities should be engaged in devotional service by all means. They should always avoid fruitive activity. If one puts into the bondage of karmic activity his disciple, son, or citizen who is bereft of transcendental vision, how will one profit? It is like leading a blind man to a dark well and causing him to fall in. Purport. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.26, Na buddhi bhedam janayed agyanam karma sanginam joshayet sarva karmani vidvan yukta samacharan. Let not the wise disrupt the minds of the ignorant who are attached to fruitive action. They should be encouraged not to refrain from work, but to work in the spirit of devotion. Loka swayam shreyasi nashta drishtir yortan samiheta nikama kama anyonya vaira sukalesha hetorananta dukam chanaveda muda. Due to ignorance, the materialistic person does not know anything about his real self-interest, the auspicious path in life. He is simply bound to material enjoyment by lusty desires, and all his plans are made for this purpose. For temporary sense gratification, such a person creates society of envy, and due to this mentality, he plunges into the ocean of suffering. Such a foolish person does not even know about this. Purport. The word nashta drishti, meaning one's, and I forgot to say, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word nashta drishti, meaning one who has no eyes to see the future, is very significant in this verse. Life goes on from one body to another, and the activities performed in this life are enjoyed or suffered in the next life, if not later in this life. One who is unintelligent, who has no eyes to see the future, simply creates enmity and fights with others for sense gratification. As a result, one suffers in the next life. But due to being like a blind man, he continues to act in such a way that he suffers unlimitedly. Such a person is a Muda, one who simply wastes his time and does not understand the Lord's devotional service. A Muda means a fool. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7.25, Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita mudo yam nabijanati loko mam ajamavyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my eternal creative potency, Yoga Maya, and so the deluded world knows me not, who am unborn and infallible. It is said in the Katha Upanishad, it is also said, Avidyayam antare vartamana swayam dhira panditam manyamana. Although ignorant, people still go to other blind men for leadership. As a result, both are subjected to miserable conditions. The blind lead the blind into the ditch. Kastam swayam tarabhigyo vivaschir avidyayam antare vartamanam drishtva punastam sagrina kubuddhim prayojayir utpatagam yatandam. If someone is ignorant and addicted to the path of samsara, how can one who is actually learned, merciful, and advanced in spiritual knowledge engage him in fruitive activity and thus further entangle him in material existence? If a blind man is walking down the wrong path, how can a gentleman allow him to continue on his way to danger? How can he approve this method? No wise or kind man can allow this. This is a very famous verse. We learn this in Gurukul. Gurur nasasyat swajano nasasyat pita nasasyat janani nasasyat daivam natatsyan napatishchasasyan namo chayedya samupettamrityum. One who cannot deliver his dependents from the path of repeated birth and death should never become a spiritual master, a father, a husband, a mother, or a worshipable demigod. Purport. There are many spiritual masters, but Ṛṣabhadeva advises that one should not become a spiritual master if he is unable to save his disciples from the path of birth and death. Unless one is a pure devotee of Krishna, he cannot save himself from the path of repeated birth and death. Takta deham punar janma naiti mam etisorjuna. One can stop birth and death only by returning home back to Godhead. However, who can go back to Godhead unless he understands the Supreme Lord in truth? Janma karma chame devyam evam yo veti tattvata. We have many instances in history in Ṛṣabhadeva's instructions. Shukracharya was rejected by Bali Maharaj due to his inability to save Bali Maharaj from the path of repeated birth and death. Shukracharya was not a pure devotee. He was more or less inclined to fruitive activity, and he objected when Bali Maharaj promised to give everything to Lord Vishnu. Actually, one is supposed to give everything to the Lord, because everything belongs to the Lord. Consequently, the Supreme Lord advises in the Bhagavad Gita 9.27, Yat karoshi yarashnasi yajuhoshi dadasi yat yat tapasyasi konteya tat kurushva mararpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, as well as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. This is bhakti. Unless one is devoted, he cannot give everything to the Supreme Lord. Unless one can do so, he cannot become a spiritual master, husband, father, or mother. Similarly, the wives of the brāhmaṇas who were performing sacrifices gave up their relatives just to satisfy Krishna. This is an example of a wife rejecting a husband who cannot deliver her from the impending dangers of birth and death. Similarly, Prahlād Maharaj rejected his father, and Bharat Maharaj rejected his mother. Janani nasasyat. The word Daivam indicates a demigod or one who accepts worship from a dependent. Ordinarily, the spiritual master, husband, father, mother, or superior relative accepts worship from an inferior relative. But here Ṛṣabhadeva forbids this. First, the father, spiritual master, or husband must be able to release the dependent from repeated birth and death. If he cannot do this, he plunges himself into the ocean of reproachment for his unlawful activities. Everyone should be very responsible and take charge of his dependents just as a spiritual master takes charge of his disciple, or a father takes charge of his son. All these responsibilities cannot be discharged honestly unless one can save the dependent from repeated birth and death. Idam shariram mama durvibhavyam satvam hime hridayam yatra dharma prishte krito me yara dharma arad ato himam Ṛṣabham prahurarya. My transcendental body, my Sachidananda Vigraha. Wait, what verse is this? This is 19. Let me just follow in the book, because sometimes it's different. Sorry if my reading's a little bit unenthusiastic. I'm just a bit tired. Okay. Similarly, my transcendental body, my Sachidananda Vigraha, looks exactly like a human form, but it is not a material human body. It is inconceivable. I am not forced by nature to accept a particular type of body. I take on a body by my own sweet will. My heart is also spiritual, and I always think of the welfare of my devotees. Therefore, within my heart can be found the process of devotional service, which is meant for the devotees. Far from my heart have I abandoned irreligion, adharma, and non-devotional activities. They do not appeal to me. Due to all these transcendental qualities, people generally pray to me as Ṛṣabhadeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the best of all living entities. Let me just check everything's working still. Okay, it looks like it. Okay. In this verse, the words idam shariram mama durvibhavyam are very significant. Generally, we experience two energies, the material energy and the spiritual energy. We have some experience of the material energy, earth, water, air, fire, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego, because in the material world, everyone's body is composed of these elements. Within the material body is the spirit soul, but we cannot see it with the material eyes. When we see a body full of spiritual energy, it's difficult for us to understand how the spiritual energy can have a body. It is said that Lord Ṛṣabhadeva's body is completely spiritual. Therefore, for a materialistic person, it is very difficult to understand. For a materialistic person, the completely spiritual body is inconceivable. We have to accept the version of the Vedas when our experimental perception cannot understand the subject. As stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Lord has a body with form, but that body is not composed of material elements. It is made of spiritual bliss, eternity, and living force. By the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord can appear before us in His original spiritual body. But because we have no experience of the spiritual body, we are sometimes bewildered and see the form of the Lord as material. The Mayavadi philosophers are completely unable to conceive of a spiritual body. They say that the spirit is always impersonal, and whenever they see something personal, they take it for granted that it is material. In Bhagavad Gita 9:11, it is said, Avajananti mamuda manusham tanumashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Unintelligent people think that the Supreme Lord accepts a body composed of material energy. We can easily understand the material body, but we cannot understand the spiritual body. Therefore, Ṛṣabhadeva says, Idam shariram mamadur vibhavyam. In the spiritual world, everyone has a spiritual body. There is no conception of material existence there. In the spiritual world, there is only service and the receiving of service. There is only sevya, seva, and sevak. The person served, the process of service, and the servant. These three items are completely spiritual, and therefore the spiritual world is called absolute. There is no tinge of material contamination there. Being completely transcendental to the material conception, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva states that his heart is composed of dharma. Dharma is explained in Bhagavad Gita 18:66. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja. In the spiritual world, every living entity is surrendered to the Supreme Lord and is completely on the spiritual platform. Although there are servitors, the served and service, all are spiritual and variegated. At the present moment, due to our material conception, everything is durbhavya, inconceivable. Being the supreme, the Lord is called Ṛṣabha, the best. In terms of the Vedic language, nityo nityanam, we are also spiritual. Wait, one second. Sometimes all the periods get messed up with this. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Okay, in the terms of the Vedic language, nitya nityanam, we are also spiritual, but we are subordinate. Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is the foremost living entity. The word Ṛṣabha means the chief, or the supreme, and indicates the Supreme Being, or God Himself. Let me just check what verse we're reading up to. 27, okay. Tasmar bhavanta hridayena jata sarve mahiyam samamum sanabham aklishta buddha bharatang bhajadvam shushrushanam tad brahmanam prajanam. My dear boys, you are all born of my heart, which is the seat of all spiritual qualities. Therefore, you should not be like materialistic and envious men. You should accept your eldest brother Bharat, who is exalted in devotional service. If you engage yourselves in Bharat's service, your service to him will include my service, and you will rule the citizens automatically. Purport. In this verse, the word hridaya indicates the heart, which is also called ura, the chest. The heart is situated within the chest, and although instrumentally the son is born with the aid of the genitals, he is actually born from within the heart. According to the heart's situation, the semen takes the form of a body. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, when one begets a child, his heart should be purified through the ritualistic ceremony known as Ṛṣabhadeva. Ṛṣabhadeva's heart was always uncontaminated and spiritual. Consequently, all the sons born from the heart of Ṛṣabhadeva were spiritually inclined. Nonetheless, Ṛṣabhadeva suggested that his eldest son was superior, and he advised the others to serve him. All the brothers of Bharat Maharaj were advised by Ṛṣabhadeva to adhere to Bharat's advice. The question may be asked, why one should be attached to family members, for in the beginning it was advised that one should not be attached to home or family. However, it is also advised, Mahiyasam Pado Rajo Bhisheka. One has to serve the Mahiyan, or one who is very spiritually advanced. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahor Vimukte. That's just in verse 2 that we read above. By serving the Mahat, the exalted devotee, one's path for liberation is open. The family of Ṛṣabhadeva should not be compared to an ordinary materialistic family. Bharat Maharaj, Ṛṣabhadeva's eldest son, was specifically very exalted. For this reason, the other sons were advised to serve him for his pleasure. That was to be their duty. The Supreme Lord was advising Bharat Maharaj to be the chief ruler of the planet. This is the real plan of the Supreme Lord. In the Battle of Kurukshetra, we find that the Lord wanted Maharaj Yudhishthira to be the supreme emperor of this planet. He never wanted Duryodhana to take the post. As stated in the previous verse, Lord Ṛṣabhadeva's heart is Hridayam Yatra Dharma. The characteristic Dharma is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. Surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To protect Dharma Paritranaya Sadhunam, the Lord always wants the ruler of the earth to be a devotee. Then everything goes on nicely for the benefit of everyone. As soon as a demon rules the earth, everything becomes chaotic. At the present moment, the world is inclined toward the democratic process, but the people in general are all contaminated by the modes of passion and ignorance. Consequently, they cannot select the right person to head the government. The president is selected by the votes of ignorant Sudras. Therefore, another Shudra is elected, and immediately the entire government becomes polluted. If people strictly followed the principles of Bhagavad Gita, they would elect a person who is the Lord's devotee. Then automatically there would be good government. Ṛṣabhadeva therefore recommended Bharat Maharaj as the emperor of this planet. Serving a devotee means serving the Supreme Lord, for a devotee always represents the Lord. When a devotee is in charge, the government is always congenial and beneficial for everyone. Bhuteshu virubhta uduttamaye sarisripasteshu sabodhanishta tato manushya pramatastatopi gandharvasiddha vibudanugaye devasurebhyo magavat pradhana oh God, I don't know why I'm reading that. Dakshadayo brahma sutastu tesham pavaparat-sota virinchivira samatparoham dijadeva deva. Of the two energies manifest, spirit and dull matter, beings possessing living force, such as vegetables, grass, trees, and plants, are superior to dull matter, stone, earth, etc. Superior to non-moving plants and vegetables are worms and snakes, which can move. Superior to worms and snakes are animals that have developed intelligence. Superior to animals are human beings, and superior to human beings are ghosts because they have no material bodies. Superior to ghosts are the Gandharvas, and superior to them are the Siddhas. Superior to the Siddhas are the Kinnaras, and superior to them are the Asuras. Really? Huh. Superior to the Asuras are the demigods, and of the demigods, Indra, the king of heaven, is supreme. Superior to Indra are the direct sons of Lord Brahma, sons like King Daksha, and supreme among Brahma's sons is Lord Shiva. Since Lord Shiva is the son of Lord Brahma, Brahma is considered superior, but Brahma is also subordinate to me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because I am inclined to the Brahmins are best of all. Purport. In this verse, the Brahmins are given a position superior to that of the Supreme Lord. The idea is that the government should be conducted under the guidance of the Brahmins. Although Ṛṣabhadeva recommended his eldest son Bharat as emperor of the earth, he still had to follow the instructions of the Brahmins in order to govern the world perfectly. The Lord is worshipped as Brahmaṇyadev. The Lord is very fond of the devotees or Brahmins. This does not refer to so-called caste Brahmins, but to qualified Brahmins. A Brahmin should be qualified with the 8 qualities mentioned in text 24, such as Shama, Dhamma, Satya, and Titiksha. The Brahmin should always be worshipped, and under the guidance, the ruler should discharge his duty to rule the citizens. And under the guidance of the Brahmins, the ruler should discharge his duty and rule the citizens. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, the executive is not selected by very intelligent people, nor is he guided by qualified Brahmins. Sorry, I just needed to stretch. Consequently, chaos results. The mass of people should be educated in Krishna consciousness so that according to the democratic process, they can select a first-class devotee like Bharat Maharaj to head the government. If the head of the state is headed by qualified Brahmins, everything is completely perfect. In this verse, the evolutionary process is indirectly mentioned. The modern theory that life evolves from matter is to some extent supported in this verse because it is said, Bhuteshu virudbhaya. That is, the living entities evolve from vegetables, plants, grass, plants, and trees, which are superior to dull matter. In other words, matter also has the potency to manifest living entities in the form of vegetables. In this sense, life comes out of matter, but matter also comes out of life. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 10.8, Aham sarvasva prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all material and spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. There are 2 energies, material and spiritual, and both originally come from Krishna. Krishna is a supreme living being, although it may be said that in the material world, a living force is generated from matter. Although it may be said in the material world that a living force is generated from matter, it must be admitted that originally, matter is generated from the supreme living being. Nityo nityanam, chetanas chetananam. The conclusion is that everything, both material and spiritual, is generated from the supreme being. From the evolutionary point of view, perfection is reached when the living entity attains the platform of a Brahman. A Brahman is a worshipper of the Supreme Brahman, and the Supreme Brahman worships the Brahman. Okay, maybe after work I have to pronounce this better. A Brahman is a worshipper of the Supreme Brahman, and the Supreme Brahman worships the Brahman. There. In other words, the devotee is subordinate to the Supreme Lord, and the Lord is inclined to see to the satisfaction of his devotee. A Brahman is called Dvija-deva, and the Lord is called Dvija-deva-deva. He is the Lord of the Brahmans. The evolutionary process is also explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya chapter 19, wherein it is said that there are 2 types of living entities, moving and non-moving. Among moving entities, there are birds, beasts, aquatics, human beings, and so on. Of these, the human beings are supposed to be the best, but they are few. Of these small numbers of human beings, there are many low-class human beings like Malechas, Pulindas, Bodhas, and Shabaras. The human being elevated enough to accept the Vedic principles is superior. Among those who accept the Vedic principles, generally known as Varnashram, presently known as the Hindu system, few actually follow these principles. Of those who actually follow the Vedic principles, Most perform fruitive activity or pious activity for elevation to a high position. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid dyatati siddhaye. Out of many attached to fruitive activity, one may be a jnani, that is, one philosophically inclined and superior to the karmis. Yatatam apisiddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvata. Out of many jnanis, one may be liberated from material bondage. And out of many millions of liberated jnanis, one may become a devotee of Lord Krishna, of Krishna. Na brāhmaṇaistu laye bhutamanyat pashyami vipra kimanta ata parangtu yasmin ribi prahutam shraddayaham ashnami kamam natatagnihotre. O respectful Brahmins, as far as I am concerned, no one is equal or superior to the Brahmins in this world. I do not find anyone comparable to them. When people know my motive after performing rituals according to Vedic principles, they offer food to me with faith and love through the mouth of a Brahman. When food is thus offered to me, I eat it with full satisfaction. Indeed, I derive more pleasure from food offered in that way than from the food offered in the sacrificial fire. So we need to feed the Brahmins. Purport. What verse is this? 23. According to the Vedic system, after the sacrificial ceremony, the Brahmins are invited to eat the remnants of the offered food. When the Brahmin eats the food, it is to be considered directly eaten by the Supreme Lord. Thus, no one can be compared to qualified Brahmins. The perfection of evolution is to be situated on the Brahminical platform. Any civilization not based on Brahminical culture or guided by Brahmins is certainly a condemned civilization. Presently, human civilization is based on sense gratification, and consequently, more and more people are becoming addicted to different types of things. No one respects Brahminical culture. Demoniac civilization is attached to ugra karma, horrible activities, and big industries are created to satisfy unfathomable lusty desires. Consequently, the people are greatly harassed by governmental taxation. The people are irreligious and do not perform the sacrifices recommended in Bhagavad Gita. Yagyad bhavati parjanya. By the performance of sacrifice, clouds form and rain falls. Due to sufficient rainfall, there is sufficient production of food. Guided by the Brahmins, society should follow the principles of Bhagavad Gita. Then people will become very happy. Anar bhavanti bhutani. When animals and man are sufficiently fed with grains, they become stronger, their hearts become tranquil, and their brains powerful. They can then advance in spiritual life, life's ultimate destination. Trita tanur ushati me purani yeneha sattvam paramam pavitram shamodama satyam anugrahascha tapastatikshanu bhavashtayatra. Translation. The Vedas are my eternal transcendental sound incarnation. Therefore, the Vedas are Shabda Brahma. In this world, the Brahmins thoroughly study all the Vedas, and because they assimilate the Vedic conclusions, they are also to be considered the Vedas personified. The Brahmins are situated in the supreme transcendental mode of nature, Sattva Guna. Because of this, they are fixed in mind control, Sama, sense control, Dhamma, and truthfulness, Satya. They describe the Vedas in their original sense, and out of mercy, Anugraha, they preach the purpose of the Vedas to all conditioned souls. They practice penance, tapasya, and tolerate titiksha. intolerance, titiksha. And they realize the position of the living entity and the Supreme Lord, Anubhav. These are the 8 qualifications of the Brahmins. Therefore, among all living entities, no one is superior to the Brahmins. Purport. This is a true description of a Brahman. A Brahman is one who has assimilated the Vedic conclusions by practicing mind and sense control. He speaks the true version of all the Vedas. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedashta sarvar aham eva vedya. By studying all the Vedas, one should come to understand the transcendental position of Lord Sri Krishna. One who actually assimilated the essence of the Vedas. Sorry, I just need to stretch. One who's actually assimilated the essence of the Vedas can preach the truth. He is compassionate to conditioned souls who are suffering the threefold miseries of this conditional world due to their not being Krishna conscious. A Brahman should take pity on the people. And preach Krishna consciousness in order to elevate them. Shri Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, personally descends into this universe from the spiritual kingdom to teach conditioned souls about the values of spiritual life. He tries to induce them to surrender unto him. Similarly, the Brahmins do the same thing. After assimilating the Vedic instructions, they assist the Supreme Lord in his endeavor to deliver conditioned souls. The Brahmins are very dear to the Supreme Lord due to their high sattva gun qualities. And they also engage in welfare activities for all conditioned souls in the material world. Let's see, I might have to end at this verse. Yeah, okay. Matopyanatat parata parasmat svarvapavargadibir pater nakinchit. Svargapavargadipater nakinchit yesham kimusyad itarena tesham akinchananam my bhakti bhajam. I am fully opulent, almighty, and superior to Lord Brahma and Indra, the king of the heavenly planets. I am also the bestower of all happiness obtained in the heavenly kingdom and by liberation. Nonetheless, the Brahmins do not seek material comforts from me. They are very pure and do not want to possess anything. They simply engage in my devotional service. What is the need of their asking for material benefits from anyone else? Purports. The perfect Brahminical qualification is stated herein. Akinchananam maya bhakti bhajam. The Brahmins are always engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess material things. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 11.8, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the position of pure Vaishnavas. Sorry. I need to sit up. I'm almost finished. We're almost finished. The Brahmins are always engaged in devotional service of the Lord. Consequently, they have no material wants, nor do they possess material things. In Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 11.8, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains the position of pure Vaishnavas who are anxious to return home back to Godhead. Niskinchanasya bhagavad bhajanon mukasya. Those who actually want to return back to Godhead are niskinchana, that is, they have no desire for material comfort. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises, Sandarshanam vishayinam atayoshitam cha ha hanta hanta visa bhakshanato pyasadu. Material opulence and sense gratification through the association of women are more dangerous than poison. Brahmins who are pure Vaishnavas always engage in the Lord's service and are devoid of any desire for material gain. The Brahmins do not worship demigods like Lord Brahma, Indra, or Lord Shiva for any material comfort. They do not even ask the Supreme Lord for material profit, and therefore it is concluded that the Brahmins are the supreme living entities of this world. Sri Kapila also confirms this in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:29-33. Tasman mayarpita shesha kriyartatma nirantara mayarpitatmana pungso mai sanyasta karmana na pashami param bhutam akartu samadarshanat. The Brahmins are always dedicated to the Lord's service with their bodies, words, and minds. There is no better person than a Brahmin who thus engages himself and dedicates himself to the Supreme Lord. What time is it? 2 minutes to 8. How long is the purport for verse 27? Oh, it's a little bit too long. Okay, we'll just read the translation at least. Sarvani ma dishnayata yataya bhavarbhis charani bhutani sutta druvani sambhavitavyani pade padevo vivikta drigbhistu taru harhanam me. My dear sons, you should not envy any living entity, be he moving or non-moving. Knowing that I am situated in them, you should offer respect to all of them at every moment. In this way, you offer respect to me. So we'll read the purport for this tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. I'm not sure if you noticed, but I was falling asleep doing a lot of that reading. Sometimes I can go on full-on autopilot mode and be reading and still be kind of sleeping, like in a kind of a dream state, but still reading. And I can do that with singing, leading kirtans even. So sorry if that probably came through a little bit though, like, anyhow. Tomorrow I have a good excuse though. All right. Jai Shri Guru Guranga. But yeah, tomorrow I'll be more awake and it will be more focused. All right. Jai Shri Guru Guranga Ganta. And this evening I'm going to read about Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gadadhar Pandit, and maybe we can also do some kirtans. Jai Shri Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Ṛṣabhadeva Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vishnupad Ashtatarashatashmar Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Pataragunath Shri Jeev Gopal Bhattadashagana Shrada Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Rishi Gaur Prasad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Avishya Bharati Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Yamuna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Saptam Goswami Bhakti Bhagirath Shri Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi ki jai. Shri Gadadhar Pandit ki jai. Tadiya Shubha Tirabhav Titi ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Vo. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradadevi Satyavatai Namo Namaha. Vancha Kalpatarubhyashta Kripa Sindhu Bhyayevacha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams. Yes, I did have quite an adventure yesterday. Yesterday, if you look on Google Maps, I think it says it takes 3 hours to get to the place I wanted to get to. So 3 hours there and 3 hours back. So it should have been a 6-hour trip if I was on a motorcycle. But it ended up being a 15-hour trip because I had to go on one, because the place was not so close to any like really big city or anything. And so I had to go on one bus and then to another bus and to another bus, and to another bus, and each time I had to figure out which place to go to. So I had to ask all the people, and then once I'd find out which bus I had to take, I'd have to wait for sometimes an hour, because there aren't so many buses going now during this semi-lockdown time. There's very few buses moving. And so, yeah, it was kind of fun though, in some ways, but other ways not. Anyhow, okay. Jai Shri Radhe. See you all. In this evening, how many hours from now? It will be 8 p.m., I guess. So in exactly 12 hours from now. Oops, sorry. Oh God. Okay. Oh wow, it's 10:30 p.m. Okay, go to sleep, Prajumna Prabhu. Dandavat Pranams, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Hari Bol.